Have you ever struggled to make a Minecraft build actually look realistic? Well, trust me, I do all the time, but there is a really good method which I've started to use, and it makes building in Minecraft much easier, much quicker, and helps to make buildings like this look a lot more realistic. Now, this method consists of 5 different steps that we'll be looking at throughout the video, each one helping to bring your build more and more to life. But let's just go ahead and start with the first step. Let's go. Step 1 of the process is to find the building that you want to use as a reference for your Minecraft build, and this can be done using Google Earth. If you don't know, basically Google Earth lets you fly around and view buildings in a 3D perspective, making it really useful for replicating buildings inside of Minecraft. This video is not sponsored. Now, if you're trying to create a realistic city like I am, then it might be a good idea to find buildings that contrast with each other. For example, if you've got a street made up of mostly light colour buildings, then it might be a good idea to make a building out of something like bricks in the middle, as this creates a contrast and stops the city from being too boring or repetitive. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be replicating this building that I found in West London right here. And now that you found the building that you want to recreate, let's move on to step 2, which is the block palette. Okay, now that you found your building, you next need to figure out which blocks to use to make your Minecraft building look as close to the real building as possible. To do this, you could either eyeball it. For example, with my building, it's fairly obvious I want to use bricks for the main portion of it, but with some buildings like this one, it's not quite as obvious. To find the blocks you'll need, you need to go to the website Image Color Picker, which will be linked down in the description. Now, once you're on the website, go ahead over to Color Picker and click Pick from Screen, and then left click on the color of the building on Google Earth to find exactly what color the building is. If you've only got one monitor as well, you might have to minimize the 2 tabs and put them next to each other in order to do this. Now, if you scroll down on the website, it should give you a number like this, which corresponds to the color that you've just clicked on. Then you'll need to go over to the second website in the description, Block Colors, and copy and paste that number that you've been given in this box right here. The website will then give you 12 Minecraft blocks that are the most similar to this color, so you can pick and choose them for your building. This is also really useful for creating block textures or gradients, but we'll get onto that later in this video. For my building, I'm going to be using mainly bricks and bone blocks, as well as some smooth quartz and stone. But for now, let's move on to step 3, which is finding the dimensions of your build. Now, finding the dimensions of your build is fairly easy if we go with the rule that 1 block in Minecraft is equivalent to 1 meter cubed. Because of this, you can find out how long or wide a build should be by measuring the length in meters on Google Earth. To do this, go to the measure distance option in the top left hand corner, and then in the corner of your building, place a starting point, and drag this line to the other corner of the building to find its length. I've measured the front of my building as 42 meters, which is the same as 42 blocks in the game. And do this for all sides of the building, and then in Minecraft, create a base for the build using these dimensions like I've done right here. Also, just note that the measuring tool measures from ground level, so just be careful when measuring the length of the parts of the building that are above ground level, as you may just be measuring the completely wrong area. Then, to measure the height, hover the mouse over the road in front of the building, and in the very bottom right, there'll be a number which I believe is the height of the road above sea level. Then hover the mouse over the top of the building and write this number down, and the difference between these 2 numbers will be the height of the building. Also note that you might have to change around the dimensions a bit when you come to detailing the building, just because of the limitations of Minecraft. Like in my build, I added a few extra blocks to the height of the build just so I could fit every floor in, and you might have to do the same, so just improvise a bit. But once you've measured the dimensions, build the basic structure of your build in Minecraft using the block palette that you found in step 2. For my build, the roof was definitely a bit tricky to get right. I don't think I picked the easiest building for that, but it turned out alright in the end. And now that we've got the basic structure of our build, let's move on to the next step, which is detailing. The detailing phase is where you start to bring your build to life by adding details like windows, doors, balconies, and finer details and shapes. You can do this by flying around the building on Google Earth, but I find that Street View can actually be very useful for actually seeing what the details look like, as the 3D mode on Google Earth can sometimes distort or completely get rid of some of the finer details. Then you just have to build these details in Minecraft by experimenting with different blocks or different combinations, like maybe using iron trapdoors for window frames or iron bars for railings, just as some examples. Also, something else you could try and add are imperfections to your build, like maybe graffiti on the side, or some scaffolding, or maybe even some damages to the building, just to make it look even more realistic. Try not to over detail using this though, as it may make the build look too messy or unrealistic, but something like what I've got here is just about right. And the whole point of this is to not be afraid to experiment and see which details work and which don't, as this is how you get the most realistic outcome for your build. If you want to see a full tutorial on detailing your builds, let me know down in the comments below, but for now let's move on to the final step, step 5, texturing and gradients. Texture is the final way to add even more realism to your build, as it helps to make the build look slightly weathered, just making it a bit more interesting. But how do I do this, I hear you ask? Well, just like step 2, you could either eyeball this. For example, I know that bricks often work well with granite or polished granite, as they have a very similar colour, or you could once again use the website Block Colours, again linked in the description, to find the other 11 most similar blocks to the colour you inputted earlier. If you're not happy with the blocks that have been given to you, then just slightly adjust the colour on the colour wheel, and do this until you found the blocks you think work the best together. Once you found your block palette, place it down in front of the building in Minecraft so you know what you're working with, and then start randomly incorporating these blocks into your build. The general rule is the more texture you add to a build, the more the building is going to look rough or run down. You can therefore create gradients using different intensities of texture. I know this sounds a bit complicated, but hear me out. For example, you might want the top of the building to look more weathered than the bottom, and you can do this by adding more texture to the top and less texture to the bottom, making the bottom look more maintained or well looked after, as you can see right here. Again, try not to over texture, as it can look a bit too messy. The texturing I've done here on my building with the granite mixed in with the bricks is about the level of texturing you want to try and achieve with your build. But once we've done that, you should have a completed building, and it should hopefully look a bit like the real building you picked back in step 1. I'm sure there's a large part of the building I'm forgetting to finish. Probably wasn't important anyway. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and let me know down below how you did with your build. But that's it for now. If you want to see more on my builds and haven't already, make sure to watch my latest Minecraft city build episode on the left of the screen, or if not, there's a tutorial on the right of the screen for a cool building design I made for my city. But thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you later.